Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fantastical Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Admittedly, I'm a bit behind of my schedule because this is actually the monthly wrap-up from the month of June, and we're practically halfway through July, but this is life. So June has been a really busy month, I have to say. A lot of things that started finally making sense, because I have to say the first part of the year was really chaotic for me and a lot of people I know. It almost felt as if it was just an attempt, a constant attempt at starting new projects that were just not going in the right direction, and then having to go back and start again and again and again. And finally, towards the end of the month, I have to say, we saw the light of the end of the tunnel. I think that it was also an expression that I used a couple of times when talking to my members, with the stand-up members, when doing the conclusion of the healing step-by-step videos and the reaching the milestone number 5. But let's have a look at my journal. So I'm sorry to say, I finished my stock that I had on the Tarot Design Tomoe paper, let's say notebooks, which made me really, really sad because apparently they're out of stock and I don't even know whether they're going to make them anymore. If you're familiar with Tarot Design, what they were using is the old Tomoe paper, not the one that has been bought by Sanzen. And I have to say, I have tried the new one and it's just not the same. And I'm not just being picky, it actually is different. What I like to do at the beginning of the month, I always, I always show my currently inked fountain pens with which ink, and then at the end of the month, I also do an ink report where I basically give a score when it comes to the combination between the fountain pen chosen, the flow, and the ink itself. So I was quite happy because I made myself a mixed ink between the Pilot Hiroshizuku Cosmos and the Ferris Wheel Press Blushing Mushroom, which was actually rather nice. But we'll get to that later. But what I loved about the way in which I structured the month of June, at least at the beginning, is that I went through all of the decks that I have to use, and I divided them into what I use for my personal private practice, what I use for my Sunlight and Starlight members, so the membership of my channel. And in that case, we have had a really busy month preparing for a live. So there will be a live discussion of this deck, the Sacred She Tarot by Madeva Padma. So it will be together with my members, and basically we have been studying this deck and we have been comparing it to the Osho Zen Tarot. We have found a lot of differences and a lot of similarities between the two decks. I have to say, I have formed my own opinion about this deck, but obviously I'm not going to spoil anything for my members because this is something that we'll talk about in the live, which is the 21st of July. It's going to be my very first live discussion, not just with my members, but overall, and hopefully it's going to be lots of fun. I've been doing a lot of trial test runs and just to check that all of the filming gear and the lamps and all these kind of things are in working order. And I can assure you, I have never done a live before, so I'm a bit concerned, but it is what it is. We have to start somewhere. And so we will start with the discussion about this deck. And I have to say, this deck is, on the one hand, I understand the intention and the purpose of this deck as a deck that wants to bring back a sense of balance into a world that has a tarot world or a spiritual world that has seen the Osho Zen Tarot as being predominant. When it comes to the vibes and the energy in a very masculine kind of way. So obviously it wants to bring back a sense of balance to that. I think it mirrors the general feeling that there needs to be some focus on the creativity that comes from the divine feminine. If you want to participate, the discussion, the live discussion is open to all of the tiers of my membership. So also to the Fairlight members, which is a supportive tier of my membership. Generally speaking, Fairlight members do not have access to all the videos, but they do have access to the live discussions. And so if you want to join just for the discussion, you can become a member of my Fairlight tier, and you'll be able to assist to the live discussion, or you'll also be able to watch it afterwards if you cannot make it for that time. The 21st of July, as I said. So it is very interesting, but I have to say there's a lot of things that we were discussing with my members as well, and we're not entirely sure whether this has been successful or not, but I am holding my guns here, and as I said, it will be very, very interesting to see where we're going in the live discussion. So now, at the beginning of the month, as I was saying, I made a distinction between the decks that I wanted to use for my personal practice, the decks that I wanted to use for the Sunlight and Starlight membership, and also the decks that I was going to use for my own journey through the healing step-by-step videos that I reserve for my Starlight members. And this way, I'm actually a lot happier. I am happier of the way this works out throughout the month, because whenever I was thinking about using a deck, I was going back to this page and I was just trying and see whether I had already thought about using it or not. And it actually worked out really well. And just to give you an idea, for example, let's just move to the next journal because I wanted to give you an idea of what I've done. So this is my healing step-by-step journal. And I'm happy to say that we have finally reached the conclusion of those videos. There have been 7 introductory videos and then 6 videos referring to the milestone from milestone 1 to milestone 5. And I'm just going to give you a quick flip through of this journey. I've actually started writing my journal in Italian because this way I feel less exposed when it comes to the my reflection, let's say, because it's something that I want to share, not necessarily because I want to share what my reflections are, but because I think that it becomes easier when you see an example of how I myself approach the journaling and the meditation that I encourage during the healing step-by-step videos. I receive from my members sometimes questions about how do you journal, how do you use the cards, how do you pair up tarot and oracle decks. And in this case, for example, I've actually done a lot of work on the offering. So I call these offerings because these ones are literally these envelopes. This is an envelope, and I have bought it in South Korea, in Seoul. And as you can see here, it's an envelope. And I've actually made some kind of, you know, when you make a bag, a small bag with, for example, a crystal, an amethyst for protection, for example, and a charm, or perhaps you write something in a bit of paper. So the offering that I've done is pretty much following the same guidelines as when you make a protection bag. And I have based my choices on the card. So in here, there is an actual tarot card. I'm not going to show you because it's something very personal. But there is a charm and there is an affirmation. And so I have actually based my choices for the card and the charm on the series Read Like a Pro videos, because we're actually looking at the main energies and clusters and constellation, what I call clusters and constellations related to each of the major arcanas. So this is a study that I'm doing with my Starlight and Sunlight members. And so I've been doing that for 2 very significant cards, so the Empress and the High Priestess. And the choice has you know, being driven by the energy that I have studied and researched about these two cards. And then, you know, I've started the milestones, and I have to say, and I received this as a feedback, once you do the intro video, the milestone videos were a lot easier to go through because they were really reflecting all of the good work that has been done through the intro videos. So there's always a lot of journaling prompts. I customize some spread. I recommend 5 or 6 decks for every single milestone, depending on the milestone itself. And then obviously we went through all of this together with my members, and it was really, really fun. The death of the old self, I think it was one of the most successful part of the milestone number 5 video, and I've glued here an image of a tiger because I've always I was born under the Chinese sign of the tiger, and this has always conditioned my life in a certain way. But the death of the old self is the taking stock of what I've done so far and understanding that there needs to be a process of evolution and maturity that comes with the acceptance of the death of the old self and the welcoming of something new or the new journey. So this was basically milestone number 5, which is very liberating, I have to say. And so this was done through the use of about a dozen different decks, but I feel that when it comes to the most successful pairing, this one has been an absolute mind-blowing experience, because using the Star Child Oracle by Danielle Noel, together with the Inner Child Oracle by Amanda Lynn Aisling, has been not only very productive when it comes to understanding how to navigate through the videos and the prompt of the custom spread, it's also been very beautiful, let's say from an aesthetic point of view. So I was actually really, really happy to have found this. And you know, look at it right now, it kind of looks like it was a bit of an obvious choice, in the sense that we do feel these kind of cosmic vibes. And if you watch my channel for any length of time, you will remember how I've always talked about the Inner Child Oracle as an oracle that at the beginning didn't necessarily feel like it was going to be very helpful for the specific type of work I was using it for, so the inner child work. But ironically, this has proven to be wrong, because the cosmic vibes are in, for certain, that you can find them in the images. But at the same time, when you actually pay attention and you focus on the messages at the bottom of the cards, you will see how that opens up a lot of work that can be done by letting the inner child speak up. And this was actually my inspiration for the quarter 3. So quarter 3, July, August, and September. And that's the work that I'm going to do with the Starlight members, because we finished with the Healing Step-by-Step video and we are transitioning into the tarot roadmap to the inner child. So what we're going to do together as a work is we're going to let the inner child speak up in a very important kind of, let's say, journey. So to give you an idea, this has been more or less an overview of what I've done in the Healing Step-by-Step videos, 7 intro videos, and I think it's 5 videos for the milestones. And obviously we've been looking at the prison we live in. Is it a prison of our own making? Is it something that we can work through in order to break free from that? And obviously we've been doing that with the help of tarot and oracle decks. And this is what I have planned planned for Q3, so a tarot roadmap to the inner child. And these are the arguments and the topics we're going to touch upon in order to always use tarot and oracle decks, helping us as tools to help us journal and also meditate and understand our position in this very important journey. And then by request, I'm actually picking back up a tarot roadmap for grief and loss, so for processing grief and loss towards the end of the year. And this will be again done together with my Starlight members. So it's something very, very exciting that we'll be going through. So if you want, my membership is very affordable, and I'm always available for any kind of questions. You can just send me an email at info@fairlightwellness.com. There is a description, or let's say a summary of all the perks and benefits of each tier of the membership. So when you click on the join button on the main page on my channel, you will be presented with an introductory video where I explain all of the benefits and the perks. And basically, you will see all the tiers and the prices. I have to say, I have matured a lot. I have evolved the perks a lot, and also the structure of the videos, thanks to the really invaluable feedbacks from all of my members. And we're very happy because I think we have reached a really sweet spot in which, it is a lot on offer, but at the same time, there's a lot of participation coming from the members as well. So I'm actually really excited about the second part of the year. And as I was saying, these two together are just absolutely wonderful. And it was the main focus of my decks and my tarot practice in the month of June. And then I just wanted to show you a deck that I have never seen in any kind of video, in any channel. And I think I know why, because it's probably because it's an Italian deck. But then again, you do see, every now and then you do see foreign decks. It's, languages are not necessarily always a barrier. And because nowadays we do have the possibility to have an almost instantaneous translation with Google Translate. And I believe that thanks to machine learning, these translations are actually getting better and better, or at least that has been my experience. So this is a deck that is called Arcani Filosofici, so the philosophical arcana. And it is, as I said, it's an Italian deck. So this has been created by Francesco Disa and Alessia Dulbecco. It does contain 25 cards, so it is not a 78 cards. It's not a full tarot deck. But I don't necessarily mind that, because I mostly use it as some kind of a study deck. And I feel that it is a very, very powerful one. So obviously this will be the guidebook, which is obviously in Italian. But as I said, it does give you the possibility to use Google Translate and to use it quite well, if I may say. What I find really interesting about this deck is that it really gives you the possibility to look at the major arcanas, not just by renaming them, but also by identify a different kind of archetype in the cards themselves. And so, for example, you don't need numbers. As you can notice, for example, this one says la mente, which means the mind. And it is, this is the prayer, for example. This is the desire. This is the sister. So as you see, this is beauty. So as you see, it is archetype based. But what I find is that because it's very minimalist when it comes to the, the images on the cards, it really draws your attention onto the title, so the name of the archetype, so the ascent for in this case. And also because each and every card has a sentence, and I don't know if you can see it, it's very tiny, but I can assure you that in real life you can read it, although I am wearing my reading glasses right now. I don't think I could read it. No, I cannot read it without them. But that tells a lot about me rather than the cards. So in this case, there's so much. So this one, for example, is called the Fool. So it's the Fool, but it's declined in gender. So it's declined as the feminine Fool. And it does bring about the idea of this divine feminine energy that is part of the Fool. And so you can definitely have an idea of how to position yourself towards the card. So when you read, for example, this is the World card, and they didn't rename it, so they kept it as the World card. But in here, you can read this. The sentence says, "I am taking away myself from you in order to learn how to be together with you." So obviously my translation is terrible, but the concept of this is that there is this sense of union in the World card where you look at the completion of a journey, and this completion of a journey will take you to the starting and new beginning of something new. So you have to remove yourself from a union, from a situation in which there is this completion, this union, because in one way we also see the Fool's journey through the major arcanas of the tarot as the reunion of the initial Fool to the wise Fool. So we start with nothing in order to go through all of the experiences in life with a new vision, a new set of eyes, and also the sense of wonder that only the person that doesn't remember their past lives can have. And so we get to the end of the journey with the World card, in which the Fool reunites themselves with their old self, but it's also represented by the death of the old self. So we remove ourselves from everything that we have learned in order to be able to be together with a new self. I don't know if the explanation makes sense. It's it's obviously something that needs to be thought about, something that goes very deep into the understanding of why we use tarot, or at least that has prompted this kind of a question for me. Why do I use tarot? And not just how I use it. Sometimes I believe that understanding how you use tarot is less important than understanding why you use it in your life. And of course, you can answer by saying that you use it to divine, to understand, to make sense of events that are going on. Or, in the case that you're a tarot reader, of course, you use it to read as a divination tool for others. But when it comes to our own personal practice, I think that we all need to be honest with ourselves and admit that, at least know what the ultimate goal or ultimate target is when we use it. So these cards are very deep, very insightful. This one, for example, talks about freedom. And it says, "Do what you want without deciding what you want." So this is very deep for me. And it's also kind of, it's a provoking thought, because on the one hand, it tells you a cliche, do what you want. That is the concept of freedom, although it's a very oversimplified concept. So do what you want, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at the surface. It actually goes much deeper than that, because it tells you do what you want without choosing, let's say, not deciding, without choosing what you want. So it takes away something that has given you before. That doing what you want seems to be giving you the freedom to do whatever it feels like you feel like doing, but at the same time, it doesn't tell you, it tells you not to choose what you want to do. I think that in many, many cases, this could be seen as a very one of those decks that people can use in a deck study, because it does, as I said, it does present itself as very thought-provoking cards, but at the same time, it also kind of nags at you, and it presents reality in a different way. And so I really like it, because at the same time, I can read it in parallel with how I read the major arcanas. And this is the Devil. So it's basically, it does have a few more cards. So it's not just the major arcanas. It does have a couple of additional cards. This is the Lovers, for example. And the message is very beautiful as well, because I am learning together with you to look for you elsewhere. So there's always that concept of, it starts with a very simple, oversimplified message. I'm learning together with you, but at the same time, it takes something away from you because you need to look for this person elsewhere where this person is not. And it's so this is something that reminds me of the study that we've done of the lovers cards, because the lovers card is the number 6, and the number 6 is always a number of transaction, but it's also a number of choice. And ironically, the lovers card has the devil card as its teacher card. So when the lovers card is reversed, we understand how to bring it back upright by using the devil card as a teacher. So understand that we not only seek in onto others, onto the person we want to be with, something that mirrors our own self. So we love the other person, we love what we recognize as our own. But we also need to use the devil card and use that fear, that challenge to love something that actually we are scared about in the other person, because that's the only way in which we can actually reconcile the choice of the lover. So loving not just what we love, but loving also what we hate or what we fear. And it is very deep. I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it has been quite revolutionary for me, I have to say. It really changed the way in which I look at the major arcanas. So just going on in the flip through, I've used a lot the Remembering the Sweet Fool Tarot. Let me just show you. All right. This is an amazingly beautiful deck. I have to say, the only, let's say, issue that I've got is with the guidebook, because even wearing my glasses, I actually have issues in reading. The font is really tiny, and it doesn't help that it's also in some kind of a lyrical form. I love it. It's a wonderful deck, but I wish I could actually enjoy it to the fullest. And unfortunately, because of it's probably just my eyesight, but I've heard a lot of feedback from other people who don't have an eyesight problem, saying that it is not the easiest of fonts to read, and not just because of the size of the font, but also the font itself. So it would have been wonderful if I could actually use the guidebook a bit more, because let me tell you, this is a really powerful deck. So it's a photographic deck, but there's so much work done behind the scene to produce this deck. It is absolutely amazing. I really, really love it. And what happened is that when looking at this card, so I thought to myself, okay, what do I want to use it with? Because you know me, I always use tarot in combination with oracle decks. And I have actually found this deck here. This is an oracle deck, and it's called the A Dose of Reality Oracle Deck by Klarna Ella, and the artist is Todd William Deering. So this deck, again, it's an indie deck, but I've actually never seen it around, and I don't know whether it's because it is a bit of one of those decks that, let's put it this way, it's not a hug deck at all. It's one of those decks that really doesn't shy away from slapping you in the face when it feels like you need to be slapped in the face, if you know what I mean. And so I like it, I really do, but it is one of those decks that I cannot necessarily use every day, because it does kind of ask you to look at things in a certain way. However, it pairs up really, really well with the Remembering the Sweet Fool Tarot. There is a sense of similarity between the artwork, and because this one is also a photographic deck, and in many cases there is the same kind of technique, so the mirroring technique on the photo, as you can see here, for example. So the two sides are it's basically a photo cut in half and then mirrored on the two sides of the card. And it's not something that we see very often. There is one oracle deck, I think is the Tree Whisper Oracle, or something like that. I am so sorry, I actually don't remember the exact title. But I know that it's an indie deck, and I have actually, thanks to one of my Starlight members, I've actually purchased the latest edition of that deck. The Three Whispers, I think, is called, and it's making its way to Australia from the UK, so it might take a while, but it will eventually get here. So I don't know what you think about this pairing, but I honestly believe that it looks really good. There's a lot to think about, and as I was saying, a dose of reality. This oracle is really, as you can see, there's a lot of cards with a very provocative kind of message. So dumb and boring, for example, between the Eight of Points and the Sun of Heels, or mirror, as in between the Eight of Cups and the Nine of Cups. I believe that when there is this kind of very similar vibe, the best way, sorry about that, that's a really strong word. The best way to use these decks is to just use them like this. So flipping the cards, looking at the messages, reading them out loud, and see whether they make sense to you or not. And, also on the one hand, going with the flow, but on the other hand, also understanding that there is a message there. It's just that sometimes we're not necessarily ready to receive the message or to understand it. And so I really, really loved using these two together, but also because originally I actually saw the Remember in the Swift Fool Tarot in Annette's channel, so a Project Refined Life, and I believe that she paired it up with the Death Doula Oracle. And so I tried that out as well, and I have to say that was a fantastic pairing. So I've got it here. This is the Death Doula Oracle, an amazing deck. One of those decks that really, it's a one of a kind. You will not find a deck like this. There's a lot of decks that really work more or less in the same area, but this one is very unique and it's absolutely fantastic. So what I love about this pairing is that perhaps when it comes to the layout of the cards, because the Death Doula does have these white borders, which are actually quite prominent, perhaps we have a moment in which we're asked to take, to take a step back and look at the oracle card and the message on the oracle card, and then slowly it's easing you into the other cards, the tarot cards on the side. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to have the same layout between the tarot card and the oracle cards in order to have this flow of analysis, thought, and meditation. But you do need to take a moment or take a break and focus on this message. For example, we've got wisdom between the Star card and the Seven of Sticks. So Sticks is the renaming of the Suit of Wands. So wisdom comes with healing, of course, and it's kind of also facilitating and encouraging the healing itself. But at the same time, it also is needed in a situation in which the Seven of Sticks or the Seven of Wands signifies the, sometimes it's the rage of having to stand up for yourself. So the number 7 is also related to the Chariot, because Chariot is the number 7 card. And the Chariot is the principle of mastery through change, but it is the expression of keeping everything under control, having self-control within yourself, and also outwards controlling others as well in order to protect them. So that is basically the principle of the constellation of the Chariot that extends by definition to the other number 7, so the Seven of Cups, Seven of Wands, etc. And so we see this, getting back to the wisdom. So there is that sense of self-control that comes on the Seven of Sticks, but at the same time, it needs to be moderated by the wisdom card. So there's a lot that we can say when we use tarot and oracle this way. And I have to say, it is my favorite part in my practice, because it's not just a way for me to look at my decks and use them, but it's also a way to improve my knowledge on the cards themselves. And it's also obviously a way to go through this journey, a journey towards a better future. So we always try and improve our condition, but also improve also our understanding of life. It is by understanding things that we can actually face them in a better way. So I don't know what you think about this pairing. Let me know in the comments below. I think that it's really, really beautiful. I can't wait to receive the 3 whispers or the 3 whispering. I am so sorry. I should have actually checked the name of that oracle deck. What I'll do, I'll actually check and add it on the video during the editing process. But as you can imagine, there's only so many decks that you can pair up with the Remembering the Sweet Fool Tarot. I would definitely recommend the Death Doula because it really feels, it's not just because of the aesthetics, but it really feels like these two are really a strong couple of decks, and they're really, the messages that come out of the cards are very, very poignant and intense. Another deck that I've used throughout the month of June and has been extremely helpful, very, very soothing and healing, is the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle deck. This has been the deck that I've used for my readings of the energies of the week for my members. And I have to say, it is an amazing deck. Using it that way, focusing on a message, just one card, to understand what we can expect, let's say, for each and every week, has been a very soothing experience. This deck in itself is also very compassionate. There's a lot of positive cards, but what I appreciate about it is especially the way in which it tells you to forgive yourself for being yourself. There is the encouragement to a sense of acceptance of the fact that we are human and therefore we are flawed intrinsically, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we need to betray ourselves and look for a different model, look to be something that we're not. It doubles down on the being proud of being who we are, even with our flaws. As you can see, many of the cards have a lot of references to natural elements, whether they're plants or flowers or, the moon. But at the same time, it always brings everything back to a human kind of environment. So it doesn't give you cosmic vibes, something unattainable, something that is in the as above. This is a very grounded and balanced kind of deck. There's a lot of actually figures, where these characters are always sitting down, or they're laying down, or they're taking a moment, taking a rest, and just trying to be with themselves. And try and not look at yourself with the eyes of wanting to get better, but try and look at yourself with the eyes of accepting the way you are. So there's a lot of nourishing cards. There's a lot of cards that make a parallel between the moon and which would be in the as above, with the so below of our own selves, part of our bodies, for example. There is a moon belly card, which I probably already shown you, but I didn't pay attention. There is a moon shroom kind of card. There is a moon money. So allowing the flow of abundance. Let me just see if I can find the moon belly. Okay, so of course it was one of the very first cards that I was showing you. But as I was saying, so I really love that the cards create this parallel between the moon, for example, and a part of your own body, so yourself. And the moon belly card is referring to healing your gut, and that is extremely important. We all know how important is a balanced nutrition, for example. So there's always a lot of figures that are meditating or breathing, and it's always referring back to healing with your breath, for example, or this sense of acceptance. So accepting all parts of you. You don't always, there is a sense of acceptance as explained, in a sense that you don't have to love everything about yourself. It's okay to accept that, for example, I don't know, your hands don't look the way you would want them to look, or perhaps you would like to have different type of hair, or your nose is too big, or your feet are too small. I don't know, but there is this really strong sense of acceptance by understanding that acceptance doesn't just blindly mean taking everything at face value. It means looking honestly at yourself and understanding that this is who you are. And I find that very revolutionary, because most of the time when we talk about acceptance of our own body, the risk is to become a bit toxic in forcing ourselves to love everything about ourselves, even when we don't. And so this is not what this deck is doing, quite the opposite. So I really love working with this deck. I have loved using it for the energies of the week videos, and I absolutely recommend it for anyone who is doing a lot of work of acceptance and compassion towards yourself, because the healing is actually what results from this work towards acceptance. Really fantastic deck. So obviously I've gone ahead with my deck and walk for the month of June. So it was really, really interesting because we had a look at Gemini 2, is it? Yes, Gemini 2 started on the 1st of June, and obviously we went ahead. So what I do with my Sunlight and Starlight members, I basically create a custom spread. We talk about it. We talk about the astrological influences and also the alchemical influences for each and every decan. We also create a parallel, for example, between the specific decan and a movie, just for us to have the possibility to have an idea, a visualization of the energies that distinguish the specific decan. And then we went on to Gemini 3. And then obviously, I think that Cancer 1 was still in June, but it was towards the end of June. So we had a look at Cancer 1 as well when it comes to the deck and walk. It is something that I really like because it lets me use different decks as well. So in this case, for example, I used the Dirt Gems Oracle and the Self-Love Tarot, which was a really interesting pairing. Let me show you. So these two decks together are actually really, really cool. There is a lot of similarities when it comes to the artwork. By the way, this is the mass market version of the Dirt Gems Oracle. And I have to say, I don't have the indie edition, but I am so happy about the quality of the mass market edition that I don't feel like I would need the indie edition of this deck. It is really well done. The cardstock is phenomenal. It has this gold, sort of gold, dull gold or matte gold edging, which is very high quality. The cards themselves are high quality, very sturdy. It feels like you can use this deck as much as you want. You can take it with you on a trip, for example, and it's not going to get ruined. And when I started using it with the Self-Love Tarot, I immediately felt like there was this really, really strong connection between the two, in the sense that there are similarities between the artwork as as we will see, but it's not just that. It's also because there is this really strong sense of self-love that comes from both the cards, both the decks. So I really, really appreciated the fact that the Dirt Gems gives me the possibility to look at the plants and flowers that are depicted on the cards from a different perspective. At the beginning, I wasn't entirely sure that I would have been vibing with this deck, because I remember I was talking about it and I was saying that I already have an idea of the meaning of the plants. But the fact that this deck, and especially if you look at the guidebook, you will see that there is a new perspective. It does give you or offer you a new perspective on interpretation on the cards, of the energy of those plants. And so you can choose whether you want to accept it or not, obviously. There is this sense of duplicity in the using of this deck. You can use it the way you feel that is most appropriate for you. If you already know, for example, what the symbol of seaweed is, then use it that way. But you can also deepen your knowledge by going to the guidebook and reading what the creator intended for that card to be. But as I was saying, one way in which I have been using it is very intuitive. So by using these two decks together, and also, let me tell you, this one pairs up really well with the Gentle Tarot. Because not everyone has the Self-Love Tarot. There is a lot of nudity, and it's not an aggressive kind of nudity. It's not a nudity that has been weaponized, but it is nudity nonetheless. And so there, obviously, if you're not comfortable with this deck, you will not have it. But I am pretty sure that a lot of people will have the Gentle Tarot. And so for you, for example, you may try and use it together with the Dirt Gems, and it will look really, really fantastic. So let me know about this pairing as well, what you think in the comments below. I know that there's a lot of people, when talking about the Dirt Gems Oracle, they say that because there are no keywords on the cards, it is actually not the most, the easiest deck to use. I tend to agree in principle, in the sense that the absence of keywords for me is a deal breaker. However, in this case, I do know a bit more about my plants. And as I said, it was a very enlightening exercise to actually go back to the guidebook and see what the meanings, the new meanings were for the cards. So really, really good, these two together. And so just to keep on going with the flip through, I always do a 3 cards pull in the morning. I generally speaking focus on something positive, something to be mindful about, and a message for today. In some cases, I use the Walking Meditation Tarot. So for my members, again, I have filmed a sort of a 24 hours kind of cycle in which I explain how I journal with my decks. And so, you know, in the morning, for example, those days in which I go out for a walk, I use the Walking Meditation Tarot. And then I use that deck and I meditate during the walk. It's a very, very beautiful deck for these kind of things. I also did a study of the Four of Swords because this has been for a couple of months already. It has been my stalker card. It seems to be a card that I was pulling more often than any other card. And it was quite interesting, the stuff that I actually learned about it. It was very, very enlightening. And it was really cold. So I know that you've probably seen, you know, images of like snow and stuff like that. And you think it was June. Yes, it was June in the Northern Hemisphere. It was obviously warm, but it wasn't warm at all in the Southern Hemisphere. We had one of the coldest starts of winter ever. No, not ever, but ever since recorded, or at least in a few decades. And one thing that I wanted to show you at a certain point, where is it? A lot of winter. Hello, winter. Winter is here. Let me tell you, it was really a bit of a shock because I don't do well in winter. I seem to feel like I'm paralyzed because I don't want to expose myself to the cold, which is counterproductive because obviously the more you move, the better it is because you produce heat. But it is the counterintuitive. So I actually wanted to show you one last deck for the month of June. I am so very grateful and happy because one of you lovely subscribers, Jet, she has heard that I was missing out on the Fantastical Tarot by Natalie Hertz. And she heard that I was looking for it, that I was really smitten with this deck, but I couldn't find it because it is out of print and it's hard to find. But what happens is that when you see a listing in a Facebook post, for example, about this deck, the asking price is about $200, which is out of my price range. And so she reached out and said, so I have it. She said, I have the demo deck. She used to have it in her shop. And so she reached out to know if I wanted to receive it. And I said, absolutely, yes, thank you so, so much. It is a demo deck. And obviously, I did not expect it to be new, but I am so very grateful because it is really, really beautiful. So it is by Natalie Hertz. And unfortunately, as I said, well, originally it was published by US Games. Unfortunately, as I said, it's not in print anymore. It's a pity. And, you know, I was talking about it with someone in the tarot community lately. How, for example, they make announcements about decks that are going to be not reprinted. So they finish the printing cycle and they're moving on to something new. And I don't think that publisher actually understand the tarot community because one of the decks that was recently put out of print, so whatever is left in stocks all over the world, that's it. It's not going to be replenished, is the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. And I believe that it's one of the most popular decks by Llewellyn. It's one of those decks that everyone refers to because the guidebook is exceptional, not just in reference to the deck itself, but, you know, referring to tarot. and all the astrological, the alchemical meaning of the cards. And it talks about numerology as well. So a lot of people, you would see that a lot of people actually got a hold of that deck, not necessarily because they like the aesthetics of the deck itself, but because they believe that the guidebook is very insightful, it's very useful. And so I really don't understand what the decision-making process is on selecting which decks are going to be out of print and which decks are going to be replenished and reprinted. So if any of you works in the printing industry, let me know if there's some kind of a guideline, because I really don't understand why putting out of print some decks that are clearly very popular and clearly they have sales year after year after year, and that is shown in the reprinting. So when you see that a deck has been reprinted several times, like the Osho Zen, for example, you understand that there's always demand for that deck. And so I don't understand why, at a certain point, just coming to the decision of stop reprinting it. I really don't understand whether it's something related to a contract. It may be that there was a contract about that sometime or other, but I hope that you're noticing in the meantime how beautiful these cards are, because I absolutely love this deck. It's really, really incredible. I always appreciate gifts, because it makes me feel really emotional. It's very touching that you guys have always come through for me whenever I say that I'm looking for a specific deck. I always receive a lot of messages of people telling me there is one for sale on eBay, or someone is ready to let it go, etc. So it's always really touching for me to see how close the tarot community can be. And I'm always very, very grateful for that, because that is the entire purpose of this channel. And also at an even deeper level, to be able to have the membership and being in touch and in communication with my members is just something that is beyond the words of appreciation, because it's absolutely wonderful. So that was my month of June. As I said, it was a very busy month, and I'm still, try and tie up loose ends, because July has started with a bang. It is a very busy month as well, because at the end of July, we'll also be going on holiday finally. But I will keep on posting videos. And so you will see me traveling and visiting new tarot and oracle decks shops in Southeast Asia. Finger crossed, if everything goes well, I will be visiting a tarot museum. So that will be, I imagine, very, very interesting. But there is a couple of things that we need to sort out with the visas and stuff. But it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a very interesting one. And I'm so very happy to have you as my companions to my travels, because I will be talking about tarot during all of my visits everywhere. So thank you so much for staying with me till the end of this video. More to come. Have a great day.